We've reached a point in time where I really feel like fighters are getting ahead of themselves and trying to skip the line to greatness. In this video, we break down Jaron Ennis, his performance last night against Jaron Ennis. Is he ready for Bud Crawford? And much, much more. This is your boy, JG. This is the Punch Report. Let's just get into the content. Fun night of fights last night. Shout out to all the combatants. In this video, though, we covered Jaron Ennis. Now, first and foremost, I think it's important to highlight that the landscape of boxing has changed dramatically. Guys like Floyd, or even Pacquiao for that matter, Miguel Cotto, Canelo Alvarez, who's still active, they did this thing where they fought opponents, got stoppages, looked sensational, built a resume, became marketable, and put themselves in a position to be next in line to be considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters during a current era. Canelo, for right now, is still in the conversation as one of the best guys out there today. Jaron Ennis had a hometown fight, Philly fight, against a guy that he didn't look great against the last time out, Jaron Ennis. And this was an opportunity provided by Eddie Hearn to go out there and really put on a tremendous show and look good doing it. And I think he missed the mark a little bit. Now, I've seen some videos out there where people are being extremely critical of Jaron Ennis, and I'm not going to be so much so from the perspective of pugilism, boxing, but looking at it from the perspective of how do you get a guy with the skill set and ability of a Jaron Ennis who seems to be almost regressing, if not plateauing, in how he shows up under the bright lights. Jaron came out and he fought a much different style than he did last time, so credit to him. He stayed in front of Ennis. He gave every opportunity. He put out some good shots, and we'll get into that a little bit more in the video. But he was there to be hit by Jaron Ennis, and it seemed as though Jaron Ennis spent more time pleading with his corner during the bout, and exclaiming to the ref that he's holding or he's doing X, Y, Z. It's your responsibility as a fighter to go in there and figure out ways to get it done, even when you're battling a tricky opponent. This is why the guys who really transcend the sport of boxing and become the best, or consider the best regardless of era, they figured out ways to deal with difficult opponents. For right now, this seems to be a struggle for Jaron Ennis. Now, let's get into the particulars of the bout. For me, this has already been well documented and established. You can probably Google this and see a multitude of videos that are going to say the same thing that I'm about to say. The defense for Jaron Ennis is extremely leaky. There's no getting around that. And I'm going to throw some clips in right here. The left hook for Jaron was really landing all night. Leaping left hook, a setup with the left hook from range, a left hook inside tight, was finding its marks. You see Jaron Ennis try to make the adjustment to start grabbing that ear, but it was just kind of in response. He wasn't really reading and reacting appropriately. Why is this problematic? And I know what guys like to say, well, it's boxing, guys are going to get hit. Yeah, I get that. Jaron Ennis was wearing very, very clean, hard shots from a guy who's not a notable puncher. When you start talking about, he'll walk through Bud Crawford and he'll beat this guy and he'll move up and cook Virgil Ortiz, and some of these things may be true, but we have to deal with the information that we have available to us. Right now, we've seen a version of Jaron Ennis that really does get touched up quite a bit. And don't say anything about David Avanesian. He was there to be a tomato can, a punching bag, and he even found a home for a couple really good shots. I'm not saying that this is the end of the road for Jaron Ennis, but to answer the question more directly, the time to get Bud Crawford might be right now. Perhaps you can age him out. I don't think Bud Crawford's even interested in this fight from that perspective. I think that Crawford is really looking for one thing and one thing only, is a farewell fight that nets him $40 to $50 million, and then he can walk away from the sport. If we're thinking about Bud Crawford staying in the sport for another 2 years by his own volition, then I don't see what Jaron Ennis did in this particular fight to put himself in a position to say, where you can't deny it, where you're like, if Bud don't fight him, he's a flat duck. You're not saying that about Jaron Ennis today. You're saying, well, he went out there, the guy stood in front of him, he took a knee in the fifth. I mean, Jaron was hurt in the first round, and it's probably part of the issue. Jaron Ennis thought he could walk him down and just get him out of there because he did hurt him in the first round. But he proved to be durable, tough, a challenge. Jaron won it pretty much every single round. But we're reaching the point where we don't want to see you just win the rounds. And it goes back to my opening statement. The sport has moved into this position where you knock out a couple guys that are not named known. Everyone in your immediate circle is telling you, you next up. You need that $30 million, blah, 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 blah. And you start doing things in the squared circle that prevent you from having the outcome that you're looking for, something sensational, a knockout, being a defensive virtuoso. And that's essentially, in my opinion, what you're seeing in Jaron Ennis, because he's being told he's the next great American fighter, sensational skill set, crazy hand speed, above average power, ridiculous athleticism, and decent fighting instincts. You start to believe that. Imagine going into the squared circle, however, and then applying yourself with a game plan. Lead with a jab, work the body, get on an angle, try to find a home for my uppercut. Instead of high guarding, walking forward against a guy who's decent, has experience against you, and just looking a bit disheveled, like you can't find a spot for your best work. When you have a game plan and you stick to it, that's what lends success. That's what allows you to get comfortably to the space of scoring the knockout, getting a crazy highlight reel situation, because you're relaxed, you're not overthinking it. You're just executing and working on the game plan, or applying the game plan, that you've worked on all of camp. You don't really have to worry about pushing the issue or pressing to get a knockout. Most individuals who've competed in the sport of boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, when you hunt that shot, that's when it's hard for you to find it. Even as a knockout artist, it's got to come naturally. And right now, I don't think Jaron Ennis is operating naturally. It appears that he's pressing the issue, and he's unable to find the shots that he's looking for because he's looking a little too hard, Right now, if I think about a Bud Crawford, Jaron Ennis would have the size strength, but I don't know if he will be physically stronger than a Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford is a much sharper puncher, more versatility, better experience. Based on what I've seen so far, much higher ring IQ. I don't think that's a fight that Boot should be checking for in this moment in time. Shout out to Jaron Ennis. Shout out to Bud Crawford. It's absolutely no disrespect, but this is the reality of the situation, and all we have is what we have, meaning I've only seen you fight the guys that you fought. And you can get a prediction wrong here or there, and this is all speculative and maybe null and void because they may or may not fight. But the Jaron Ennis that went out there last night probably gets stopped by Bud Crawford. Accumulation of headshots, or I would even say there's an opportunity to get a stoppage to the body if you're a Bud Crawford. Moving forward, he may go up to 54. 147, I think, is probably taxing him. Let Errol Spence be the guy who lets you know what happens if you stay within a division too long that you've clearly outgrown. You end up taxing yourself and getting badly beaten. But there are guys at 54 with real power. They're bigger and stronger. They're going to be more durable. Can you mix it up enough? I mean, you got a guy in Jaron Ennis who has a very beautiful, just power jab. But he likes to be more flashy than he does technical. So he gets away from a tool that could really kind of wipe away any advantage that anyone would have over him, especially with his physical attributes. Getting back to the basics of that jab, but I digress. You go up to 54. You contend with guys who can punch, guys who are going to be bigger, stronger. Some of your attributes kind of go away. From that perspective, what does it look like? Even for a Bud Crawford, he's been up to 54. And he fought a guy in Madrimov who was big and strong and gave him some challenges, but it was a good fight for Crawford. I think we saw him utilize some tools we don't typically get to see him utilize. But as far as Jaron Ennis is concerned, tremendous undefeated champion. Is this his last bout at 147? For those of you who took the time to check out the bout, what are your thoughts? Do you think he looked good? Do you think that it could have been better? Do you think it was what it was? Because I think it's also okay to go out there and put your shutout, have a sensational performance. Maybe you don't get a stoppage, but you just look really good. If you're into the third and fourth round, complaining to the ref and jawing at your corner, looking frustrated mid-round, I just don't think those are good signs, and they don't lend towards having me, or, based on what I've seen today, the larger population say, this is a guy that's ready for the big fights, whether we like it or not. I don't think that's what this fight was, the message that was sent out. He went out there, got a dub against a guy that was familiar with him, took punishment, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been taken. And I'm going to say it again because it bears bringing it up. Yes, I know people get punched. Yes, people get hit in fights. I get it. The style of fighter the caliber of the fighter, some of these shots shouldn't be taking place. And if you get in there and you take something like that from a bigger puncher, this shit's not going 12. This is your boy JG. This has been the Punch Report. Let me know what's next for Jaron Boots Ennis. What would you like to see him do? Stay at 47, continue to defend his belt there, or make the move up to 54, which will probably be much easier for him to acclimate to and test himself there. Is he ready for the biggest names out there, namely Bud Crawford, who he keeps calling out? Oh, and as a side note, in the press conference, Jaron Ennis said, yo, Ryan Garcia, he talked real crazy. Just make the fight. Listen, I'm not going to front. I'll watch that. I'll buy that. I'll buy that fight. Because right now, Ryan Garcia believes he can probably knock out the Incredible Hulk. And Jaron Ennis is left a little bit on the table. Ennis would... I will watch that fight. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. We out.